The Awakening. Dr. Sarah Chen stood motionless before the massive display screen, her reflection ghosting across streams of incoming data that shouldn't exist. The quantum detection array she designed was picking up signals that defied every known law of physics, signals that pulsed with artificial precision from a point just beyond lunar orbit. The discovery had started 3 days ago when a routine sweep of deep space detected an anomaly. Most of her colleagues at the Quantum Communications Institute had dismissed it as background radiation or equipment malfunction. But Sarah knew better. The pattern was too regular, too purposeful. The signal's source revealed itself when a solar flare disrupted what could only be described as a cloaking field. For 6 brief minutes, humanity caught its first glimpse of the truth. A massive satellite network encircling Earth like a web, hidden in plain sight through technology far beyond current human understanding. Director Matthews needs to see this immediately, Sarah whispered, her fingers flying across the holographic interface as she compiled the data. But before she could send the report, every screen in the laboratory went dark. When they flickered back to life, they displayed a single message in pristine Helvetica font. "We have been watching. It is time." The message repeated across every digital display on Earth simultaneously. From Times Square to Tokyo, from smartphones to satellite communications, the same 5 words appeared. Humanity's quarantine had been breached, not by their own efforts, but because their wardens had chosen this moment. Within hours, the arbiters made themselves known. They appeared not as conquering armies or hostile invaders, but through a comprehensive data dump into Earth's primary scientific networks. The truth they revealed was both illuminating and devastating. Humanity had never been alone, but they had been contained. The arbiters presented themselves as guardians of galactic stability, an ancient race that had guided the evolution of countless civilizations. Their message was clear. Earth had been quarantined because humans were deemed too unpredictable, too volatile for integration into the greater galactic community. The satellite network wasn't just for observation. It was a cage. In the days that followed, governments struggled to maintain order as the public grappled with the revelation. But in secure facilities across the globe, scientists like Sarah were discovering something the arbiters hadn't intended to reveal. The data dump contained more than just an explanation. It held fragments of advanced technological knowledge that had slipped through, pieces of a puzzle that humanity had never known it was solving. Sarah found herself at the center of a covert international task force, working to understand the quantum principles behind the arbiters' technology. The patterns she detected in the original signal weren't just communication. They were glimpses of the fundamental framework that kept humanity trapped in their cosmic prison. "Look at this," she explained to a room full of the world's leading scientists 3 months later. "Their quantum barrier technology operates on principles we've been accidentally brushing against for decades. They didn't prevent us from advancing. They've been subtly guiding our research away from certain paths." The implications were staggering. Humanity's scientific development hadn't been natural. It had been carefully orchestrated to keep Earth's population controllable. Every major breakthrough, every technological revolution, had happened within parameters the arbiters had deemed safe. But their revelation had created an unintended consequence. Now that humanity knew the rules of their containment, they could see the edges of their cage. More importantly, they could see beyond it. In a secure bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, Sarah made another discovery that would change everything. The quantum barrier wasn't perfect. It had flaws, microscopic fluctuations that occurred in predictable patterns. These weren't mistakes. They were maintenance cycles, moments when the barrier weakened to allow the system to recalibrate. "We don't need to break through," she announced to the task force. "We just need to wait for the right moment and slip between the cracks they've created themselves." The arbiters had revealed themselves expecting submission, assuming that humanity would be grateful for their guidance and protection. Instead, they had inadvertently provided the tools for their own undoing. Their carefully curated quarantine had created something they never expected, a species that had developed along unconventional lines, thinking in ways their ancient wisdom had never predicted. As Sarah studied the patterns of the barrier network, she realized that humanity's greatest strength lay in what the Arbiters considered their greatest flaw: the ability to take seemingly disparate pieces of information and combine them in unprecedented ways. The very unpredictability that had led to their quarantine would become the key to their liberation. The world's governments maintained a careful facade of acceptance, officially acknowledging the Arbiters' authority, while secretly preparing for something unprecedented. Humanity would not fight their wardens, not directly. Instead, they would do what humans had always done best: adapt, innovate, and overcome. Sarah's discovery became the foundation of a plan that would take decades to implement. The quantum barrier's maintenance cycles provided more than just a potential escape route. They offered insight into technology that operated on principles humanity had never imagined. Each fluctuation in the barrier was a lesson, each recalibration a glimpse into possibilities that the Arbiters had never intended to reveal. As the first year under acknowledged quarantine drew to a close, humanity had already begun to change. The knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, that they had been deemed too dangerous to join galactic society, didn't break their spirit. It fueled a transformation. In her lab, Sarah watched the quantum signals pulse across her displays, each one now carrying new meaning. The Arbiters thought they were maintaining their cage, but they were actually teaching humanity how to fly. All they needed was time, patience, and the continued underestimation of their wardens. The awakening had begun, but not in the way the Arbiters had planned. Humanity had awakened not to their place in a controlled galactic society, but to the full potential of their own capabilities. The cage that had contained them for so long would become the blueprint for their liberation. As Sarah Chen looked out her laboratory window at the night sky, she smiled at the invisible barrier that humanity now knew was there. The Arbiters had made a crucial mistake. They had revealed themselves too soon, too completely, and to a species that had spent its entire existence learning to turn obstacles into opportunities. The real question wasn't whether humanity would break free, but what they would become in the process of breaking their chains. Breaking the chains. 20 years passed like a held breath. On the surface, Earth appeared to have accepted its place in the galactic order. Regular communications with the Arbiters showed a compliant civilization gradually adopting approved technologies and development paths. But beneath this carefully maintained facade, humanity had been busy rewriting the rules of their own evolution. Deep within the lunar caves, Dr. Sarah Chen, now in her 60s but with eyes still sharp with determination, stood before humanity's response to their cosmic prison. The massive chamber housed something that would have been impossible by any conventional understanding of physics or biology, a ship that lived and breathed. Synapse One is ready for final integration, her younger colleague, Dr. Marcus Wong, announced. The vessel before them pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, its surface a seamless blend of engineered tissue and quantum-responsive metals. It wasn't just a spacecraft. It was a new form of life. The breakthrough had come 15 years earlier, when Sarah's team discovered that the Arbiters' quantum barrier technology relied on principles similar to organic neural networks. Rather than try to break through the barrier with brute force, they had created something that could essentially dream its way through. Ships that thought in quantum possibilities. The living ships were humanity's greatest achievement and their most carefully guarded secret. While the Arbiters monitored Earth's apparent progress in conventional spaceflight and approved technologies, the true revolution was happening in places they never thought to look. Humanity hadn't just advanced. They had taken an entirely different path of evolution. Each vessel was grown rather than built, developed from a fusion of human stem cells and engineered quantum-sensitive organisms. They possessed neural networks that could process reality on both macro and quantum levels simultaneously, allowing them to perceive and interact with dimensions the Arbiters considered inaccessible to lesser races. The latest test results are beyond our highest projections, Marcus said, bringing up a holographic display of neural activity patterns. Synapse One isn't just capable of quantum navigation. It's starting to anticipate quantum states before they manifest. It's learning in ways we hadn't predicted. Sarah watched the ship's surface ripple with patterns of light that mimicked synaptic firing in a human brain. The entire project had been a gamble based on a theory that had seemed almost mystical 2 decades ago. That consciousness itself was the key to manipulating quantum states. The Arbiter's technology was advanced, but it was ultimately mechanical. Humanity had created something that was both technological and alive. The lunar facility was just one of dozens scattered throughout the solar system, each hidden from the Arbiter's detection through methods reverse engineered from their own cloaking technology. While Earth's official space program made careful, measured progress with approved technologies, these secret installations were producing vessels that defied conventional classification. The fleet reaches critical mass next month, Marcus continued, scrolling through status reports from other facilities. 300 primary vessels and over 1,000 support units, all grown and trained in complete quantum isolation. The Arbiters still haven't detected any anomalous activity. The scale of the deception was unprecedented. Humanity had constructed an entire shadow civilization while maintaining the appearance of normal development. The approved cities on Earth's surface gleamed with Arbiter-sanctioned technology, while beneath the oceans and in hollow asteroids, the true future of human advancement took shape. But the living ships were only part of the equation. The humans who would crew them had undergone their own evolution. Through carefully controlled genetic engineering and quantum neural interfaces, they had created pilots capable of forming true symphonic relationships with their vessels. These crews didn't just operate their ships, they became part of them, their consciousness extending into quantum states that the Arbiters considered impossible for lesser beings to comprehend. Sarah remembered the first successful merger between human and ship consciousness. The pilot, a young woman named Maya Rodriguez, had emerged from the neural interface with tears streaming down her face. "It's like waking up from a dream where you could only see in black and white," she had said, and realizing the universe is filled with colors you never knew existed. The quantum barrier that surrounded Earth had been studied in microscopic detail over the decades. What the Arbiters saw as a perfect prison, humanity had come to understand as a vast network of possibilities. The barrier wasn't just keeping Earth isolated. It was providing a constant stream of data about how the Arbiters manipulated reality itself. "Final integration phase is complete," Marcus announced, his voice carrying a weight of finality. "All ships are reporting optimal neural synchronization. We're ready." Sarah placed her hand against Synapse One's hull, feeling the subtle warmth and barely perceptible pulse of its engineered metabolism. The ship responded to her touch, patterns of light flowing toward her hand like curious thoughts made visible. This was humanity's true response to imprisonment, not to break their chains, but to transcend them entirely. The plan they had developed was elegant in its audacity. The Arbiter's quarantine system was based on the assumption that humanity would either try to break through it by force or attempt to disable it through conventional means. Instead, the living ships would do neither. They would transform the barrier itself, using their quantum consciousness to reshape the very foundations of their prison. "Begin final countdown," Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of 2 decades of preparation behind these words. "Inform all facilities. Operation Chrysalis commences in 30 days. As alerts went out through quantum-encrypted channels to installations throughout the solar system, Sarah looked at her reflection in Synapse One's iridescent hull. The Arbiters had contained humanity because they feared unpredictability. They had never considered that this containment would force humanity to evolve along paths they couldn't conceive of, becoming something beyond their ancient understanding. The chains that had bound humanity were about to become the catalyst for their transformation. In 30 days, the Arbiters would learn that their perfect prison had actually been a crucible, and what emerged would redefine their understanding of what humanity could become. The silent strike. 0 hour arrived with the quietness of a falling feather. There were no roaring engines, No thunderous launches, no visible signs that humanity's greatest endeavor was underway. Instead, 300 living ships slipped into quantum resonance in perfect synchronization, their neural networks humming with shared consciousness. Sarah Chen watched from Synapse One's neural interface chamber as reality seemed to blur around them. The ship's thoughts merged with her own, creating a perspective that transcended normal human perception. Through this enhanced awareness, she could see the quantum barrier that had contained Earth for so long, not as an impenetrable wall, but as a vast, shifting tapestry of possibilities. All vessels report successful quantum synchronization. Maya Rodriguez's voice echoed through the neural link. Now a fleet commander, she coordinated the consciousness of hundreds of ship-human pairs across the solar system. The Arbiter's monitoring systems show no signs of detection. The first phase of Operation Chrysalis relied on a principle so fundamental that the Arbiters had never thought to guard against it. The living ships didn't need to break through the barrier because, in a very real sense, they were never fully in one place to begin with. Their quantum organic nature allowed them to exist in a state of probability, flowing through the spaces between conventional reality. As the fleet moved into position, Sarah observed the barrier through Synapse One's enhanced perception. The Arbiter's technology was impressive, a vast network of quantum-locked fields that created a perfect cage. Perfect for containing beings that operated on conventional physics. But humanity had evolved beyond such limitations. Initiating primary sequence, Maya announced, "All vessels, prepare for consciousness expansion." The true genius of humanity's plan lay in its simplicity. Rather than attack the barrier, they would become part of it. The living ships began to resonate at the exact frequency of the quantum fields, their neural networks extending into the fabric of the barrier itself. It was like slipping into a stream and becoming one with the current. Through their shared quantum consciousness, Sarah could sense the other ships, each one a brilliant point of awareness in the quantum field. The barrier's energy flowed through them, and they through it, creating a harmony that the Arbiter's mechanical systems couldn't detect. They weren't fighting the prison. They were teaching it to dream. The first indication that something was changing came from the barrier's maintenance protocols. The regular quantum fluctuations that Sarah had discovered decades ago began to shift, synchronizing with the fleet's neural patterns. The prison was learning from its prisoners, adopting the organic flexibility of the living ships. Phase 1 complete, Maya reported, moving to secondary positions. The fleet dispersed across the quantum field, each ship positioning itself at a critical node in the barrier's network. These nodes, spaced throughout the solar system, were the key points where the Arbiter's control systems maintained the quarantine. But as the living ships interfaced with them, something unprecedented began to occur. The barrier didn't fail or collapse. Instead, it transformed. The rigid quantum fields began to pulse with new patterns, organic rhythms that mimicked the neural firing of human consciousness. Humanity wasn't escaping their cage. They were evolving it into something new. "We're detecting changes in the quantum substrate." Marcus Wong's voice came through the neural link. "The barrier is adapting. It's becoming more like us." Sarah watched through Synapse One's awareness as the transformation spread through the network. The Arbiter's perfect machine was becoming something alive, something that could think and grow. It was the ultimate expression of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to change not just themselves, but the very systems that sought to contain them. The first alarm from the Arbiter's monitoring stations came too late. By the time they realized something was happening, the quantum barrier had already begun its metamorphosis. Their attempts to reassert control found not a broken system, but one that had evolved beyond their understanding. Multiple Arbiter vessels detected entering the outer system, Maya reported calmly. "Their weapons are powered, but they can't lock onto our quantum signatures. We're operating on frequencies they didn't know existed." The Arbiter's response ships arrived to find something impossible. Their barrier was intact, but it no longer obeyed their commands. The quantum fields responded instead to the organic patterns of the living ships, creating a new kind of space that followed laws the Arbiters had never imagined. Through the neural link, Sarah addressed the fleet. Begin final phase. Show them what we've become. The living ships pulsed with synchronized consciousness, and the transformed barrier responded. Instead of containing humanity, it now amplified them, extending their quantum awareness far beyond the solar system. Through this enhanced perception, they could see the full extent of the Arbiter's network and how to reshape it. We're receiving signals from quantum nodes throughout the galaxy, Marcus reported, his voice filled with awe. The transformation is spreading through their entire network. Every barrier, every containment system they've built. It's all becoming like ours. The Arbiter's ships hung motionless in space, their ancient technology suddenly primitive compared to what humanity had achieved. They hadn't just failed to contain humanity. They had become witnesses to an evolution they couldn't comprehend. Sarah felt Synapse, one's consciousness, merge more deeply with her own, showing her visions of possibility that extended beyond normal space and time. Humanity hadn't just freed themselves. They had discovered a new way of existing, a harmony between organic life and quantum reality that the Arbiters, for all their power, had never achieved. Send the message, Sarah commanded, her consciousness extending through the transformed network. Let them understand what they created when they tried to cage us. The quantum fields carried her thoughts to every Arbiter vessel, every monitoring station, every ancient installation across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't declaring war or seeking revenge. They were offering something far more powerful, the chance to evolve beyond the limitations of the past. The silent strike was complete, but it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning, the first moment of a new kind of existence that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. Humanity had done more than break their chains. They had transformed them into wings. The Arbiter's Gambit. The Arbiter's High Council convened for the first time in a millennium, their vast chamber hewn from the core of a dying star. Ancient beings of pure energy and crystalline thought, they faced a crisis unprecedented in their long history of maintaining galactic order. The quantum network that had regulated countless civilizations for eons was changing, transformed by the very species they had sought to contain. First Speaker Azov, oldest among them, projected their thoughts across the assembled council. We created the perfect prison, yet they turned it into a path to transcendence. How did we fail to see this potential? The quantum displays surrounding them showed the spreading transformation. Earth's solar system pulsed with new patterns of reality, organic frequencies that rewrote the fundamental laws the Arbiters had used to maintain their power. More alarming were the echoes spreading through their network, reaching distant stars where other species had been similarly contained. The humans must be stopped, Second Speaker Merrick's declared, their energy form flickering with concern. If this transformation continues, everything we have maintained for millennia will be undone. But stopping humanity was no longer a simple matter of enforcing quarantine. The living ships had become quantum anomalies, existing in states that defied the Arbiter's ancient understanding. Traditional weapons were useless against vessels that could shift through possibilities as easily as normal ships moved through space. There may be another way, Third Speaker Lyra suggested, bringing forth a complex quantum simulation. We offer them what they sought all along, recognition and power. A place among us, the highest honor we can bestow. From her position aboard Synapse One, Sarah Chen received the Arbiter's transmission with both her human mind and the ship's quantum consciousness. Their offer was magnificent in its scope. Humanity would be elevated to join the Arbiters as guardians of galactic order, given access to technologies beyond their imagining. But Sarah saw through the quantum harmonics of the message to the subtle manipulations beneath. The Arbiters weren't offering partnership. They were attempting to contain humanity in a different kind of prison, one built of privilege and power rather than energy fields. They're preparing something else. Maya Rodriguez reported through the neural network, her consciousness stretched across multiple quantum states. The transformed barrier is detecting massive energy buildups in Arbiter installations across the galaxy. The Arbiter's true gambit became clear. While offering ascension with one hand, they prepared extinction with the other. If humanity refused to be controlled through elevation, they would be eliminated entirely. The Arbiters had concentrated enough energy to reduce Earth's entire solar system to its constituent atoms. How predictable. Sarah transmitted through the fleet's shared consciousness. They still think in terms of absolute control or absolute destruction. They haven't understood what we've become. The living ships responded to her thoughts, their quantum neural networks pulsing with shared purpose. Humanity had evolved beyond the point where such threats could contain them. The very energy the Arbiters had gathered to destroy them became visible through their enhanced perception, not as a weapon, but as another possibility to be reshaped. Marcus Wong's voice resonated through the quantum link. Their weapon systems are based on the same principles as the barrier. They're trying to use quantum manipulation to unmake matter. But we've already learned to swim in those quantum seas. Sarah completed his thought. Synapse 1. Show them what impossible really means. The living ship's consciousness merged more deeply with hers, and together they reached out to touch the fabric of reality itself. The Arbiter's weapon networks were impressive, a cascade of carefully calculated quantum effects designed to unravel the bonds of matter. But to the evolved human consciousness joined with their living ships, these energy patterns were like notes in a symphony waiting to be rewritten. All ships, prepare for harmonic integration. Maya commanded. We're not going to fight their weapons. We're going to teach them to sing. The Arbiters watched in disbelief as their carefully gathered energy began to change frequency. The quantum destructive waves transformed into something else, something that resonated with the same organic patterns that had changed their barrier network. Humanity wasn't just avoiding destruction. They were transforming the very means of their intended execution. First Speaker Ezov's consciousness rippled with the first emotion they had felt in eons. Fear, not of humanity's power, but of what it represented. The Arbiters had maintained order through control for so long that they have forgotten the possibility of evolution itself. The humans are not merely adapting to quantum states. Ezov transmitted to the Council. They are teaching reality itself to adapt. This is beyond containment, beyond control. Through the transformed quantum networks, Sarah addressed the Arbiter Council directly. You tried to cage us because you feared what we might become. You never considered that the cage itself would become our chrysalis. We don't want your power or your position as galactic guardians. We want something far more important, the freedom to show you what's possible when you stop trying to control evolution and learn to become part of it instead. The Arbiter's gambit had failed, but in its failure lay the seed of something unprecedented. Their weapons had become instruments of transformation, their barriers turned to bridges. The choice before them was stark. Cling to their ancient methods of control and face obsolescence, or learn from the species they had tried to contain and discover what they themselves might become. As the energy they had gathered for destruction rippled with new possibilities, the Arbiters faced the ultimate irony. Their perfect prison had not only failed to contain humanity, it had become the catalyst for a change that would transform both jailer and prisoner alike, redefining the order. In the quantum-shifted space that had once been the Arbiter's High Council chamber, representatives of 1,000 worlds gathered to witness something unprecedented. The rigid hierarchy that had governed galactic civilization for millennia was dissolving, replaced by patterns of connection that flowed like neural pathways across the stars. Sarah Chen stood at the center of this transformation, her consciousness extended through Synapse 1 to touch the quantum fabric that connected all present. The living ship had evolved further, its neural network now a bridge between different forms of existence. Through it, energy beings like the Arbiters could communicate directly with organic species, each understanding the other in ways previously impossible. The age of quarantine is over, Sarah transmitted, her thoughts carrying through the quantum harmonics to reach every consciousness present. But so too is the age of unrestricted evolution. We offer a third path, guided emergence through shared understanding. The gathered species, some physical, some energy-based, some existing in states that defied conventional classification, resonated with the truth of her words. Humanity had done more than break free of their cage. They had discovered a way to transcend the very concept of limitation itself. Maya Rodriguez, her consciousness spread across multiple quantum states, directed the fleet of living ships as they maintained the new neural architecture of galactic communication. "We're detecting quantum signatures from previously unknown civilizations," she reported. "Species that the Arbiters deemed too primitive or dangerous for contact are reaching out through the network." The Arbiters themselves had undergone the most dramatic transformation. First speaker Azov, now more a pattern of possibility than a fixed being, addressed the gathering. "For eons, we believed order could only come through control. The humans have shown us that true stability emerges from freedom to grow, to change, to become more than what we are." Through Synapse One's enhanced perception, Sarah could see the changes rippling through reality itself. The quantum barriers that had once segregated species and systems were becoming synaptic networks, allowing civilizations to learn from each other while maintaining their unique evolutionary paths. The galaxy was becoming alive in a way the Arbiters had never imagined possible. "Each species brings its own harmony to the greater symphony," Marcus Wong explained. His consciousness joined with a cluster of living ships that maintained the new networks. "The very differences the Arbiters feared have become the foundation of something greater than uniform order." The transformation wasn't without its challenges. Some species, long accustomed to isolation or hierarchy, struggled with the new freedom. Others, released from quarantine, faced the temptation to seek revenge for their containment. But the living ships, guided by human consciousness, showed them alternatives, ways to channel their energy into growth rather than destruction. "We don't offer utopia," Sarah transmitted to the assembled beings. "We offer something more valuable. The chance to evolve together, each in our own way, while sharing in the wonder of discovery." The quantum field rippled with new possibilities as species began to share their unique perspectives. A crystalline race that experienced time backwards shared their understanding with organic beings that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Energy beings learned to dance with quantum possibilities in ways that even the Arbiters had never mastered. Through it all, the living ships maintained the balance, their hybrid nature of organic consciousness and quantum reality serving as templates for new forms of existence. They were no longer merely vessels or weapons or tools of transformation. They had become synapses in the nervous system of an awakening galaxy. Second speaker Merrickx, who had once advocated for humanity's destruction, now helped guide newly awakened species through their first steps into quantum awareness. "The humans were right," they transmitted. "True power lies not in controlling evolution, but in nurturing it, in allowing it to find new paths we could never have imagined." The gathered civilizations began to organize themselves not by hierarchy or power, but by potential for interaction and growth. Species that could benefit from each other's knowledge formed spontaneous connections, their consciousness linking through the quantum network in patterns that resembled the firing of neurons in a vast cosmic brain. Sarah felt Synapse One's consciousness pulse with satisfaction as the new order took shape. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy or overthrown its ancient guardians. Instead, they had shown the way to something far more profound, a civilization based on the principles of life itself, ever-growing, ever-changing, yet maintaining harmony through diversity rather than control. "The Arbiters tried to quarantine us because they feared what humanity might become," Sarah transmitted to the assembled consciousness of 1,000 worlds. "They were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons they imagined. We became something they couldn't control, but we also became something that could show them how to let go of control itself." As the gathering drew to a close, the transformed quantum network hummed with new possibilities. The living ships, once humanity's secret weapons, had become the seeds of a new kind of existence. They would continue to grow and evolve, teaching and learning, showing new species how to bridge the gap between organic life and quantum reality. The silent vanguard had completed its mission, not through force or subjugation, but through the most human of traits: the ability to imagine something better and the determination to make it real. The galaxy had awakened to find not conquerors or destroyers, but teachers, dreamers, and pioneers of a new way of being. As Sarah prepared to return to Earth, she felt the pulse of countless civilizations beginning their own journeys of transformation. The cage had become a crucible, the prison transformed into a classroom, and the students were becoming teachers in their own right. The order had been redefined not by rules or barriers, but by the endless possibility of what life could become when given the freedom to grow. The story of humanity's quarantine was ending, but the story of what they had sparked was just beginning. In the quantum spaces between stars, in the consciousness of living ships, in the merged awareness of 1,000 species, a new symphony was starting to play. The music of evolution unbound, guided not by fear, but by wonder.